Hello and welcome to the webcast. My name is Orland Damey. I work with ITS Partners as a Symantec consultant. And today we're going to be talking about the Altiris 7.1 migration paths, how to prepare your organization. Before we get into the meat of this, I'd like to provide a Symantec disclaimer concerning the information that we're going to discuss in this podcast. This information is about pre-release software. Any unreleased update to the product or other planned modifications is subject to ongoing evaluation by Symantec and therefore subject to change. This information is provided without warranty of any kind, express or implied. Customers who purchase Symantec products should make their purchase decisions based upon features that are currently available. That being said, to outline our discussion today, the first thing I'm going to do is briefly talk about ITS Partners, the company I work with. Next, we'll talk about the ITS 5 reasons to migrate. Then we'll look at some migration best practices for any kind of migration path, and then we're going to look specifically at 6.x to 7.1 migration, followed by 7.0 to 7.1 migration steps. So ITS Partners is a Symantec national partner capable of delivering consulting and software solutions from coast to coast. As a platinum partner, we've reached the highest level of Symantec Partnership Program. We've also been named the Symantec Partner of the Year. Our headquarters is located in Grand Rapids, Michigan, but engineers like myself are able to travel all around the country and are doing so as we speak. ITS maintains a strong base of talented engineers who are dedicated to offering the customized and effective solutions you need. And we've been working with the Altiris platform even before the Symantec purchase. And through the transition, we've continued to build upon our reputation for engineer-centric business and implementation of the management suite. Now, looking at the 5 reasons to migrate to the Altiris 7.1 system is a set of steps that we have put together and things that we find attractive considering the migration. First, we start with the console, and then the performance, integration, platform support, and features. And I'll break these down briefly until we get to the migration steps. Looking at the console, you can see screens here on the right. It's a Silverlight-based web interface. So you'll notice that your managed screen here is going to vary a lot from what you're looking at now. It's a drag and drop interface, allowing you to move computers from tab to tab and allow you to deploy jobs, tasks, policies, and software simply by clicking, dragging, and hovering over the options you want. And information is now more readily available than ever. Software compliance information is listed by color and immediately recognizable as either being under compliance or over compliance. And we now have resource summary information on the main screen. If you see on the right here, in the computer summary is what I'm talking about, we have the ability to click through these tabs and view the information that normally we would require going to a separate screen to get to. And of course, a streamlined interface. Instead of having multiple clicks to get back to software, we have the ability to simply click on the lower left corner there and bring up that screen immediately. I'm talking about performance. Obviously, it's a faster performing console. This is due both to the fact that it's built on a Silverlight platform and the 64-bit operating system. And faster reporting. We have some screenshots on the right here of some of the improved reporting and IT analytics support that we're going to be seeing with the future release. Integration. Day-to-day operations are going to be easier. Here you can see we've over-deployed a license on the right here with a value of about $2,000. We've got total licenses owned immediately on the main page here. So it allows the ability to simply click on software and click through your purchases and immediately get feedback. Again, we have the ability to drag and drop policies, tasks, and computers. And we can remote control with PC Anywhere almost any Mac, Linux, or Windows system. And this will be a good change coming from the 6.0 platform. And finally, we've got license compliance, application metering, and software delivery on a more condensed screen for better information and better decision making. Now, then moving on to platform support. The platform is supported on Windows 2008 R2 64-bit. So if you're using any server interface that isn't 64-bit. We are looking at a full reinstall, but maybe this is a chance to purchase new hardware. With the increased support, there may be more Mac systems that you'll be supporting, more Linux-based systems in terms of servers, more mobile management that you'll be looking at. So it might be a good time to think about what kind of new hardware you'd like to purchase for better support. Patch management is going to change dramatically. We've got Windows, Adobe, Mac, and Linux now, with many more being released in the coming months. And now we have a true 64-bit Symantec management agent for all of your 64-bit clients. And improved Mac support, as I've said, over the Altiris 6.x platform may change the number of client counts you have, the number of computers you can actively manage. Moving on to features. We've got improved imaging. We can now manage Pixie from the web UI. We have true integration of the deployment solution and notification server in one web UI. We will be losing the original DS69 web interface and the program interface to manage. You will now see all of that in the jobs and tasks. We now have the ability to layer an imaging job with existing software delivery jobs. So it removes a lot of the redundancy in software delivery and simple jobs and tasks and brings that finally into one console and the notification server. We also have IT analytics and workflow built in and supported in the 7.1 system, and better virtual machine management. We now have the ability to manage Hyper-V and VMware systems, not only manage them, but start, stop, and create VMs through the notification server interface. Migration considerations are steps to keep in mind regardless of your migration path from 6X to 7.1 or 7.0 to 7.1. Some of these things to keep into consideration is the importance of reevaluating your Altiris infrastructure. Node count changes will dictate what kind of hardware you may need in your future system and whether or not you may want new solutions. If you're not using software now, or patch management, or application metering, or asset, or workflow, now would be the best time to consider these with a fresh installation on the way. With the change in client node count support per system, we're looking at a great possibility of consolidating hardware, essentially reducing the number of servers, eliminating DS servers, and consolidating several notification servers. But of course, these specific numbers haven't been released yet, so I can't disclose what that'll look like at this time. Evaluating data migration. Now, it's possible in both migration paths to bring over old information to the new servers, but it's a good chance to say, well, maybe my Active Directory isn't as clean as I would like it to be, and I've got dead systems that are still floating around. Maybe it's time to start over. Start with new software inventory, new hardware inventory, and new application usage data. And then training for new and existing solutions. Not only talking about purchasing new solutions, but training on how to use them. This won't be as critical for a 7.0 to 7.1 customer, but for 6.x to 7.1, there are terminology changes. There's consolidation of solutions and changes in how those are named, how they function, what they look like, and training becomes a lot more important for those customers. Finally, we are retiring our 6.x systems in favor of the integrated DS7.0 and 7.1. There is no migration path. Images, software delivery, and PCT jobs will have to be rebuilt in the new 7.1 system. Now keep in mind, the structure of the 7.1 system is built in a way to support 6.x and 7.x to be running in the same environment. So you won't need to destroy those immediately, but we are looking at that being a solid migration to 7. And looking at the migration plan, questions to ask yourself, things to consider. How do my agents migrate? Coming from 7.0 to 6.x will be a different system. We'll talk about that more in a minute. Are the reboots in the process? Is that something that I need confirmation of or approval of in terms of rebooting any servers in my environment? Are change management approvals required? We're purchasing new hardware. If we're not purchasing new hardware, we're at least formatting a system and reinstalling a new operating system, which may require more confirmation in different environments. What new features will fit in my environment? Are there solutions we've considered? Are there solutions that we get in our license that we're not using now? And what new features will I need training to use? And do you have an Altiris database backup? This is something you're going to hear me say a few times in this presentation. It's always important and critical in any migration to back up, at the very least, your CMDB database in your SQL Server before any dramatic changes to your environment. And then Symantec best practices. So there are a few Symantec best practices to keep in mind when migrating, either from 6X to 7.0 environment. First, migrate a test group of agents to the NS 7.1. Best practice is to keep your 7.0 server built and functioning in a NS 7.1 migration to allow the NS 7.0 to migrate your agents for you and take a lot of work off your shoulders. We then will redirect agents across the environment in stages. It's not usually best practice to migrate 15,000 or 20,000 agents at the same time. We like to see that done in groups. And maintain the previous notification server if possible to match settings. If there's any kind of information that didn't migrate over, it allows us to match our 7.1 to our 7.0 or our 7.1 to our 6.x and take a look at any settings that didn't come through. And then we will need to build the Symantec Management Platform 7.1, preferably on a new server, a new physical server, allowing you to have your 7.0 or 6x servers running at the same time. That hardware that can then be recommissioned within your environment for a new system. And of course, the operating system supported now is Windows 2008 R2 64-bit. Now looking at the specific steps migrating from 6X to Altiris 7.1, we'll break this down into a few pieces here. This is meant to be general, not a granular migration, but just things to look at and to consider. So looking at the important steps, and these would be things that are going to be important to consider in a 6.x migration. Some of these are going to overlap, and I'll note that when it does with the 7.0 migration. So this is a similar process as the 6X to 7.0 migration. So a lot of these are going to sound similar. We are going to be using a migration tool, for example. Notification server 6.0, R13, and latest solutions installed are required when migrating data to the new server. An important step, back up the database, absolutely. Back up your server if possible, just in case. There is a new database required for the 7.1 system. The names of tables and data within the CMDB will change dramatically enough that you will need a new database. And then it's important to keep in mind product parity. So existing products on your current system should be installed on your new system. By installing new solutions, you open up new tables in your database, and if you're bringing up information from agents and don't have those tables, you will produce errors. So if you've got software in 6X and you've still got that set up, you want to make sure you install software in 7.1. And then build your new server with a new name and a new IP address. This allows you to run a 7.1 server in the same environment as a 7.0 or a 6X. Now looking at the specific steps to migrate from 6.x to Altiris 7.1, the first thing we're going to want to do is back up your existing database and server. 2, you're going to prepare your SMP6X for migration. So this includes removing any plugins on your agents, updating all of your products you have installed, copying over license files, documenting settings, and documenting your service accounts on that server. The next step is a new database created using the Symantec Installation Manager, the SIM. This isn't something you're going to have to do, but you are going to probably want to have a separate instance for 7.1, not the same instance as a 6X, unless you've already stopped using your 6X on that instance. That database can be created using the SIM. It's not something you'll have to do, but definitely something to keep in mind. 4, we're going to prepare our 7.1 server. What this includes is installing Windows Server 2008 R2 64-bit and preferably using a new IP address, a new server name, and then carrying out any Windows updates. Now this information may change in the future, but from the time you're watching this presentation, March 2nd, 2011, Service Pack 1 is not yet supported in Altiris 7.1. It can be installed, but hasn't been fully tested. So please keep that in mind and make sure you reach out to an engineer or Symantec support before installing that in the future production. Step 5, install the Symantec Installation Manager, and that will allow you to then choose and install all of your products. And 6, use the migration tool to migrate over security settings, packages, and general settings to your new server. Moving on to the next step, verify the data migration. So once that information's been migrated over using the tool, browse the console, look at your inventory, look at your settings and your policies. Make sure that that information matches your 6X and make changes where necessary. Move solution-specific data. And what I'm talking about here is moving over patch management information, software packages, asset data, deployment solution components, and manually migrating over things like workflow and service desk customization. And then configure your site servers. So redirect and upgrade your site servers, verify your sites and subnets and connection profiles are all working properly and the information matches that with what matches what you were using in the previous system. And then 10, following best practice, remove all sub-agents or agent plugins on your current 6.x clients. Now, ITS will probably recommend in most cases a removal of the Altiris agent due to some issues that we've seen in migrating an agent and files being left behind. Now, of course, this is going to differ from environment to environment and something to really sit down and consider. But Symantec best practice will be remove all sub-agents and agent plugins. So remove software, remove carbon copy, etc. Then the next step will be to redirect those agents to a 7.1 and allow the 7.1 server to automatically update those agents to the newest version. And that wraps up our 6.x migration. Those are the general steps to take. Obviously, it's not very granular, but there will be full documentation available through Symantec closer to the release date. Now, looking at the 7.0 migration, we're going to follow a similar structure. We're going to start with important steps, things to consider. First, back up your database, back up your server if possible. Again, product parity. Ensure that installed solutions match the previous system. If you've got asset in 7.0, install asset in 7.1, and so on. New server name and IP address, if possible. This allows a simultaneous running of 7.1 and a 7.0 server in the same environment. Now, another very important step here, installation paths must be the same if you're updating agent plugins. You cannot upgrade an agent or plugins if the path is different. This is simply a technical thing built in the server. It's something to keep in mind if you're doing a migration where you want to upgrade those plugins. Looking into steps more specifically, of course, it won't be very granular, but general things to look forward to. Again, back up the existing database and your server. Prepare your SMP 7.0 for migration. So update any solutions that you have, record settings, document user accounts, and so on. Now, one thing that's going to change from the 6.x migration is that you can technically restore a backed 7.0 database to a new instance or the same instance and then connect your server to that database to minimize the amount of information you have to migrate over. Something to consider. Of course, you also want to ask yourself, do I want to start it with a new database? The kind of theory, garbage in, garbage out. Maybe it's best we start over. If not, if you've got a pretty good database, we would back that up and restore it in a new instance or in the same instance and connect that to this new system. Next step, prepare your 7.1 server. Install the Symantec Installation Manager on a Windows 2008 R2 64-bit server. Carry out Windows updates, set up your security accounts, and so on. Step 5, install the SIM and all products that you'll be using in your 7.1 environment. And of course, we want to make sure that we install the same products we installed in our 7.0 system. And finally, use the migration tool for any data not migrated over from the database move. This will usually include security roles, packages, and any general settings in the console. Moving on, step 7 would be to verify your data migration. Browse through the console, make sure that the information there looks accurate, security roles are functioning properly, and so on. Also, move solution-specific data. The same in a 6.x migration. We're looking at making sure that patch, software, asset, deployment solution, service desk, workflow, data has migrated properly, and migrate those in specific ways. Again, this will be further documented by Symantec closer to the release date. Configure your site servers. This would be redirecting them to the new server, allowing them to be upgraded, and configuring sites, subnets, and connection profiles for the new environment for when the agents begin to check in. 10, a different step here, we're going to be redirecting those agents and allowing them to upgrade. We won't necessarily have to remove plugins in a 7.0 migration. So we can simply redirect those if the installation paths are the same and allow the solutions in the agent to be upgraded through the NS. And finally, we'll want to reestablish the hierarchical relationships and replication in the environment. So just to backtrack, we would break that relationship to begin with and then reestablish it in the end. And if you have any further questions, also you feel free to contact me at odamey@itsdelivers.com. Our number, 877-Altiris. You can reach any of our sales representatives here. Our website is itsdelivers.com. A lot of great information there as well. And if you're looking for our 5 reasons to migrate, more information on that, we have videos on Vimeo at http://www.vimeo.com/groups/5reasons. And for our one-sheet PDF on the 5 reasons for Altiris, itsdelivers.com/files/5 reasons for Altiris7.pdf. Where you've got a space there, make sure you have an underscore to find the file properly. Well, thanks again for attending our webcast.